The royal fire touched Lenora Quill and forgot how to burn. It struck her inside the judgment circle before the court, blue-white and loud enough to shake ash from the vaulted ceiling. Heat split the black resin beneath her feet. Yet when the flames withdrew, Lenora remained standing in a gray archive dress, her hands unblistered, her dark braid untouched. Only the wall behind her had changed. Across the stone, molten words began to form. She carried the words we were ordered to destroy. Royal flamescribe Corvin Dace crossed the circle before the final letter cooled and covered the writing with fireproof cloth. Flame corruption, he announced. Visible script is not a verdict. It may be ash memory, a damaged testimony fragment, or forbidden interference. Royal fire could preserve only words spoken before an authorized flame, entered into a flame record, carried inside a burned testimony object, or trapped in surviving ash. It could repeat fragments. It could not read thoughts or decide guilt. Lenora looked past Corvin to Dragon King Hadrian Solmere. He stood beneath the iron wings of the throne dais in black scale armor. The throne fire narrowed toward her. Above the open roof, Vaskor clung to the tower, charcoal wings across the winter sun. Smoke drifted from his nostrils, though he had given the trial flame only once. Corvin lifted a sealed ash ledger. Lenora Quill entered the restricted testimony vault after midnight. At dawn, 12 statements connected to Lady Thalia Merrow's succession review were missing. The ash locks bore no break. The accused alone emerged unharmed when the furnace opened. Lady Thalia stood beside the dais in silver-red court silk. If those statements question my claim, I ask that they be found before any marriage treaty proceeds. My father was burned for falsifying testimony, Lenora said. You expect the court to believe I stole 12 statements to repeat his crime? I expect the court to notice that fire refuses to judge a traitor's daughter, Corvin replied. Her father had died 12 years earlier, after admitting that he preserved words the crown ordered erased. Official history called his confession complete. Lenora remembered him insisting the fire had been taught to lie. His case had never been independently examined. Hadrian descended from the dais. Did you enter the testimony vault? Yes. Why? Corvin ordered me to carry a sealed transcript case to the lower furnace. Corvin opened one hand. A routine archive duty. She returned without it. It burned, Lenora said. Cases made for witness records do not burn before their contents. This one did. Hadrian stopped at the edge of the circle. What was inside? I was not permitted to open it. That is not an answer. It is the only truthful one I have. Vaskor gave a low rumble above the roof. Corvin turned toward him. The law permits a second breath when the first produces no mark. It also gave Hadrian discretion to suspend the second breath when royal flame behaved abnormally. The throne fire had recoiled from his hand twice that month, but halting the trial would weaken the succession review he had ordered completed before his proposed marriage to Thalia. 6 months earlier, Hadrian had approved a decree allowing disputed testimony to be destroyed after certification by the royal flamescribe, with no independent archive copy. He had chosen speed and political certainty. Corvin's office now controlled interpretation, certification, destruction, and the surviving record. Lenora raised her chin. Then order it. Hadrian's jaw tightened. I understand what refusing will become in his record, she said. He still had the power to stop. Instead, he raised his hand toward Vaskor. The dragon opened his jaws. White fire gathered behind his teeth. Then Vaskor closed his mouth. The flame spilled between his fangs and streamed downward in thin ribbons. It crossed the judgment circle and rode along the floor. The first statement was burned before she arrived. The words broke the timeline. They did not show who burned the statement, why it was destroyed, or what happened to the remaining 11. Hadrian looked at the script. Preserve both fragments. No one cleans this circle. Corvin's expression tightened. Visible flame memory remains disputed. So does the accusation. Hadrian faced the royal guard. Lenora Quill is confined in the Black Ember Vault under my seal. No flame scribe enters without me. No transcript is burned, moved, or recopied. The Black Ember Vault was the only chamber beneath direct royal seal. Its fires could be isolated from Corvin's office, and all flame activity inside could be observed under royal guard. It was still imprisonment. Black iron closed around Lenora's wrists. As the guards led her away, Lady Thalia met her eyes. Fear showed in the bride's face, but Lenora could not tell what she feared. Hadrian entered the vault after midnight. He wore a dark court coat instead of armor. Fresh linen wrapped his right hand. A burn had bled through. "Your own fire burned you," Lenora said. "You are the prisoner." "And you did not answer." He stopped outside the inner fire ring. The flames drew back from his boots and rose along the wall behind Lenora. "Tell me what happened in the testimony vault." "I carried the case I was given. The furnace opened before I reached it. The case burned, and the fire repeated voices from whatever survived inside." "What did they say?" Lenora remembered unfinished accusations, names cut short by heat, and women demanding entry before Thalia's blood claim was certified. She also remembered a voice resembling her father's, though resemblance was not proof. Flame recorders survived by never repeating recovered words without witnesses. Spoken once in secret, testimony could be denied, altered, and burned again. "I will answer before a neutral record," she said. "You are accused of corrupting every record in this palace. Then your presence is not neutrality." Hadrian glanced at the fire-darkened walls. "Can the fire repeat what was in the case?" "Not because we ask. Only if surviving ash memory reaches an authorized flame, and even then it may return broken." The nearest blue-white flame climbed the wall. Letters formed slowly, several incomplete before collapsing into sparks. "Royal Flame Scribe Office. Destruction certified." A second fragment followed. "Burn the first statement before the archivist arrives." No speaker's name appeared. The command might have been copied into the case, spoken before its sealing flame, or trapped in the ash that consumed it. It still required ledgers, seals, access records, and witnesses. Then another line began beneath it. "Lady Thalia Marrow's claim rests upon PESTIS." The unfinished line held for 3 breaths before the final dash collapsed into sparks. Hadrian did not ask Lenora to complete it. He ordered the inner doors opened, summoned 2 royal guards, and had them stand where they could see both the wall and the fire ring. One copied every surviving letter onto untreated slate. The other sealed the room log with the exact hour. "No one adds a word," Hadrian said. "No one interprets the fragment in the record." Lenora watched him mark the wall himself. The fire had shown that Thalia's claim depended on something contained in the destroyed testimony. It had not shown what, whether the testimony was true, or whether Thalia had ever known it existed. Corvin arrived before the sealing wax cooled. He stopped beyond the outer gate of the black ember vault, dressed in formal ash-red robes and accompanied by 2 scribes from his office. "This chamber contains disputed royal flame. By decree, examination belongs to the royal flame scribe." "The same office named in the surviving certification fragment," Hadrian said. "An office title is not a confession. No, it is a reason you will remain outside." Corvin's gaze shifted to Lenora. "You are allowing an accused flame recorder to control the evidence." "I am allowing no one to control it." Hadrian ordered the outer brazier extinguished and relit with clean royal oil drawn under guard. Nothing appeared on the walls. Lenora did not look surprised. "The fire will not answer because you command it," she said. "It can repeat only what reached an authorized flame and survived in ash, wax, or a burned record." Corvin spoke through the gate. "Or what she placed there." "That is possible," Lenora said, "which is why the source must be traced." Hadrian looked at her. "How?" "The case burned in the lower furnace. If its ash was cleared under procedure, the catch tray should have been sealed and entered in the furnace tally. Bring both. Do not let Corvin's office retrieve them alone." Corvin's face remained composed. "The prisoner is now issuing archive orders?" "She is describing preservation procedure," Hadrian said. "I am issuing the order." 2 royal guards left with a neutral palace clerk. Hadrian remained inside the outer ring, his bandaged hand held away from the flames. Lenora noticed that the nearest fire shortened whenever he moved closer. "You knew your bond was unstable before the trial," she said. His eyes returned to her. "I knew the throne flame had burned me. And you still raised your hand for a second breath. The court expected the law to be completed. The law allowed you to suspend it." "Yes." He gave no excuse. The answer was not an apology, but it left the responsibility where it belonged. Outside the gate, Corvin said, "His Majesty proceeded because refusing would have invalidated the trial and delayed the succession review. That is governance." not cruelty. Lenora turned toward him. Those are not opposites. Hadrian's expression tightened, but he did not silence her. Lady Thalia arrived while they waited. She wore a dark cloak over her court dress and stopped beside Corvin without touching him. What exactly did the wall say? She asked. Hadrian repeated only the preserved fragments. Thalia's face lost color at the unfinished line bearing her name. Did it state that my claim was false? No, Hadrian said. Did Lenora tell you what followed? She refused to give unwitnessed testimony. Thalia looked through the gate at Lenora. Then we agree on one thing. Nothing should be decided from a broken sentence. Her caution might have been innocence, fear, or political discipline. Lenora could not tell. The guards returned carrying a shallow iron tray beneath a glass cover and the lower furnace tally wrapped in white cloth. The clerk set both on a stone table outside the fire ring. The tray seal was intact, he reported. It bears the lower furnace mark and the hour of clearing. Any flamescribe office seal? Hadrian asked. Only on the attached destruction slip. Corvin objected immediately. My office certifies categories of material. It does not personally witness every burn. Hadrian ordered the clerk to read the slip without breaking its wax. Disputed succession testimony, the clerk said. Destruction authorized after office certification. Independent archive copy waived under the king's succession review decree. Hadrian stared at the final line. His decree had not ordered any specific statement burned. It had made burning possible without a second record. Open the tray, he said. Lenora stopped him. Not beside the wall flame. If ash memory survives, it could mix with what is already present. A clean iron lamp was placed in the center of the room. The clerk broke the tray seal under royal watch and used tongs to transfer one gray fragment into the lamp's flame. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then a narrow line of blue appeared along the fragment. Letters formed in the air above the lamp, incomplete and trembling. Witness entry 1. The next words broke apart before they could be read. A second fragment produced only a time mark. Hadrian compared it with the vault access roll. This was burned 3 hours before Lenora entered the restricted vault. Corvin did not deny the timing. Then the fragment confirms what the fire already suggested. It does not show who ordered the burn. Agreed, Lenora said. Hadrian ordered the tray resealed, the ash fragments numbered, and the furnace tally placed under joint, royal, and neutral custody. Corvin's scribes were permitted to observe from beyond the gate but not to handle the evidence. You remain confined, Hadrian told Lenora. The fire script has not cleared you. I did not ask it to. But no second trial will be held, while the destruction timeline is unresolved. It was his first protection of her that cost him something. Suspending the trial delayed the succession review and exposed the weakness of the decree carrying his own seal. The neutral clerk turned the destruction slip toward the lamp for one final entry. Along the lower edge, beneath the office certification, a faint pressure line appeared, where a second seal should have been. The space for the independent archive copy was blank, but the wax beside it carried the partial impression of a royal succession seal. The partial succession seal could not be identified from the destruction slip alone. By sunrise, Hadrian had the royal seal register carried into the black ember vault under guard. The book remained outside the inner fire ring, beside the numbered ash tray and the lower furnace tally. Corvin watched from beyond the outer gate. Lady Thalia stood several paces from him, her hands folded tightly beneath her dark cloak. A neutral clerk compared the surviving pressure line against 3 authorized impressions: the king's personal succession seal, the office seal used for marriage and inheritance review, and the temporary review matrix created under Hadrian's decree. The outer curve is consistent with all 3, the clerk said. The missing lower half prevents identification. Corvin's expression remained composed. Then the mark proves only that an authorized succession office handled the slip, or that someone possessed one of its matrices, Lenora said. Hadrian looked at the register. Who held them? My personal seal remained with me, he said. The office seal was kept in the throne archive. The temporary matrix was shared between the succession review and the royal flame scribe for certified destruction. The arrangement came from the decree he had approved. One office could One office could inter. Hadrian closed the register with more force than necessary. Bring the temporary matrix. Corvin lifted one hand. Removing it from the archive while the succession review remains active may compromise every pending certification. It is already compromised. 2 royal guards left with the clerk. No scribe from Corvin's office accompanied them. Lenora turned to the ashtray. A blue line moved beneath one fragment and vanished. "Do not warm it again," she said. Hadrian stopped the guard who had reached toward the lamp. "Why?" "Ash memory weakens each time it is called through flame. If the fragment breaks, whatever words remain may be lost." Corvin spoke from the gate. "Convenient. The accused decides when evidence may be tested." "She stated a limit," Hadrian said. "You may challenge it before a neutral examiner when one is appointed." Lenora glanced at him. He had not accepted her account as truth. He had stopped Corvin from treating uncertainty as permission to destroy what remained. The guards returned with a narrow iron case. Its seals were intact. The clerk opened it under 3 witnesses and placed the temporary succession matrix on clean stone. A hairline crack crossed one corner of the engraved crown. The partial impression on the destruction slip carried the same broken corner. Thalia took 1 step toward the table. Then the matrix was used. "Yes," Lenora said. "It does not show who pressed it." Corvin looked toward Hadrian. The matrix had lawful users. "List them," Hadrian ordered. The royal flame scribe, the succession clerk on duty, and a royal officer carrying written authority. "Lady Thalia?" Lenora asked. Thalia answered herself. "I could request review. I could not certify destruction." Her voice was steady, but she did not look at Corvin. Hadrian ordered the custody roll opened. The matrix had been signed out on the afternoon before Lenora entered the restricted testimony vault and returned the following morning. The receiving line bore only an office mark. No individual name appeared. "That was permitted under your decree," Corvin said. Hadrian read the line twice. "It was permitted because I allowed office custody to replace personal custody." No apology followed. He ordered the matrix impounded beneath royal and neutral seals, suspending its use for the remainder of the succession review. Corvin's jaw tightened. "You are delaying a marriage settlement on the strength of incomplete ash. I am delaying destruction under a seal whose bearer cannot be named." Lenora felt heat gather behind her ribs. The numbered fragments in the tray had been near her too long. Faint voices pressed against the edge of hearing. Not answers, only pieces carried from the burned case. Hadrian noticed her hand close against the iron cuff. "What is happening?" "The ash is still active." "Can you read it?" "Not safely in secret. I can summon witnesses. That is not the only limit." She had spent years in lower archives where certified testimony became ash. A flame recorder could preserve words only when those words had already entered an authorized flame or a burned testimony object. She could not choose which fragment survived. When ash memory passed through her, it remained until she released it before witnesses or let it fade. The fire left no mark on her skin. The pain settled deeper. Corvin's attention sharpened. "You admit carrying testimony outside its lawful record." "I admit nothing outside a witnessed examination." Hadrian ordered the inner gate opened to 2 guards and the neutral clerk. Their names and positions were entered before Lenora continued. She held her bound hands over the clean lamp without touching the flame. Blue-white light climbed between her fingers. The wall remained dark at first. Then a broken line appeared. "Archive copy required under prior law." The final words trembled and dissolved. Hadrian turned to the succession decree on the table. "Prior law?" Lenora lowered her hands. Her breathing had shortened, but she kept her voice even. "The statement may have been entered before your waiver took effect," Corvin replied at once. "Or the fragment refers to another record." "Then we verify the date," Hadrian said. The neutral clerk opened the furnace tally and compared the witness entry number against the succession intake ledger. The first statement had been received 11 days before Hadrian signed the decree allowing independent copies to be waived. The room went still. "The destruction could not lawfully rely on my decree," Hadrian said. Corvin moved closer to the gate. "The review may have recertified it after the decree. Where's the recertification?" "If the original was destroyed, the notation may be in the office docket." Hadrian ordered the docket preserved and brought under royal guard. He did not accuse Corvin. He did not look toward Thalia. Instead, he turned the destruction slip sideways beneath the lamp. Lenora saw it at the same moment he did. The ash from the burned statement lay beneath the succession wax. The royal seal had been pressed after the testimony was already gone. The succession review docket arrived under 4 seals and 1 missing page. Hadrian ordered it opened in the judgment circle. The court wanted to know why the marriage review had stopped, and Corvin insisted that any challenge to his office be heard before the royal fire. Lenora stood inside the circle with her wrists still bound. Hadrian had loosened the chains enough for her to handle evidence, but he had not removed them. She remained accused of entering the restricted testimony vault and surviving a furnace no ordinary archivist should have endured. A neutral clerk read the docket aloud. 11 disputed statements had been marked for preservation. The 12th was listed for destruction because it supposedly duplicated testimony already entered elsewhere. "Where is the duplicate?" Hadrian asked. Corvin stood at the edge of the circle. "It should be in the succession archive." "Should be?" "One missing cross-reference does not establish misconduct." Lady Thalia stood beneath the succession banner. "Then find the corresponding record before this hearing continues." Hadrian sent royal guards with the neutral clerk. Until they returned, no one touched the docket. Lenora studied the destruction line. The ink had dried before royal wax was pressed over it. Fine ash remained trapped beneath the seal, confirming that the statement had already burned when succession authority was added. Corvin followed her gaze. "Certification may be entered after lawful destruction when a furnace order was spoken before authorized flame. Then the spoken order should have left a flame log," Lenora said. "It may have." "Where?" "In records you claim were corrupted." Corvin turned to Hadrian. "Every gap becomes evidence when she names it. No one has established that Lenora Quill did not place those words into the fire herself." Hadrian looked at her. "What controlled test would distinguish preserved ash memory from words introduced by a flame recorder? A sealed statement unknown to me. Speak it before authorized flame, burn it without my presence, then divide the ash. Test one portion by ordinary royal fire, and bring the other near me under witnesses." Hadrian ordered the test. A royal guard wrote a short statement in a side chamber. Another guard read it before a clean authorization flame. Neither Lenora, Corvin, Thalia, nor Hadrian heard it. The parchment was burned, and its ash divided into 2 numbered dishes. The first dish was placed beneath clean royal fire. Letters appeared, then failed. Gate closed at. The second dish was set 3 paces from Lenora. "Record my distance," she told the clerk. "Record that I have not touched the ash or spoken." Blue-white flame rose from the dish. Gate closed at 3rd bell. A second line formed. No prisoner crossed the West Passage. The guard confirmed every word. The test proved that Lenora's presence could strengthen recovery from authorized ash memory. It did not prove that every fragment she carried was complete, truthful, or tied to the same speaker. Corvin stepped closer. "It also proves she can draw words from ash more clearly than royal fire alone." "The test establishes a method," Hadrian said. "Nothing more." Heat settled painfully beneath Lenora's ribs. Thalia watched her. "Does every recovered statement hurt you?" Lenora waited until the clerk recorded the question. "Only those the fire cannot release cleanly. And the words connected to my claim remain incomplete." Corvin lifted the docket. "Then this has not shown that the burned statement was lawful or true. It has shown that the prisoner possesses an undeclared ability tied to prohibited archive practice. My ability was never entered because your office refused flame recorders standing after my father's conviction. Your father falsified royal fire. He confessed to preserving prohibited words. Those are not the same act." Hadrian looked sharply at Corvin. "Was Lenora ever examined for archive standing? A traitor's household could not receive flame authority. The exclusion required no trial. Lenora had been barred by lineage, then condemned for working without the standing she had been forbidden to seek." Hadrian's bandaged hand closed around the stone table. The nearby flame bent away from him. The royal guards returned from the succession archive. The duplicate statement listed in the docket did not exist. They carried an empty record sleeve with its identifying number intact. Inside lay a blank sheet bearing a valid archive reception seal. "Then the duplicate may have been removed," Corvin said. "By Lenora?" a noble called. "She never had access to the succession archive," the neutral clerk replied. Another voice answered, "But she entered the restricted vault." The pressure shifted back toward her. Hadrian could have suspended the hearing. Lenora saw the political cost in his hesitation. Closing the court would be called protection of a traitor's daughter, while Thalia's succession remained unresolved. The prisoner remains confined, he said. The review continues under royal custody. Corvin Dace retains office, but no longer holds sole authority over destruction records. It did not clear Lenora. It did divide the power Hadrian had once concentrated. Corvin bowed. Then let her demonstrate whether the missing statement survives in the furnace ash. Lenora looked at the numbered tray. Another attempt might destroy what remained. Refusing would be entered as obstruction. Hadrian met her eyes. Can it be done without consuming the remainder? Not with certainty. He still allowed the test. Lenora stepped toward the lamp. Enter this first. The Crown has chosen examination despite the risk of losing the surviving record. The clerk wrote it down. She held her bound hands above the flame. Ash rose in a thin blue spiral. A broken voice entered the fire. I witnessed the blood register altered after Lady Thalia's mother died. The lawful line was... The flame snapped sideways. Across the wall, another hand of fire wrote over the witness's words. Destruction authorized under royal decree. Hadrian stared at the sentence carrying the authority of his own law. Then the buried voice returned beneath it. And the Dragon King was never shown the original page. Hadrian stopped the fire before it consumed the last ash fragment. Enough. The command cut through the judgment circle. A royal guard lowered the lamp cover, and the blue spiral collapsed into the numbered tray. Lenora's hands remained above the heat for one breath longer before she drew them back. The chains at her wrists had darkened where the links touched her skin. Hadrian saw them. Remove those. Corvin stepped forward. She is still accused of entering the restricted vault. She is also the only person who warned us that the test could destroy the surviving record. The restraints protect the court. They interfere with the examination. Hadrian did not call the decision mercy. He ordered the chains removed in front of the same nobles who had watched Lenora stand inside Vaskor's fire. When the black iron fell away, she rubbed neither wrist. Enter that the ash was sealed before the witness completed the sentence. The neutral clerk recorded it. Lady Thalia stood beneath her succession banner, pale but composed. The fragment said my mother's blood register was altered after her death. It said a witness claimed that, Lenora replied. We do not know who spoke, whether the statement was complete, or whether the speaker had direct access to the register. Thalia looked toward Hadrian. Then the original blood register must be produced. Corvin's tone remained controlled. The succession office holds the certified copy. The original maternal register was transferred to the royal lineage vault after Lady Marrow's death. Who may open that vault? Hadrian asked. The king, the royal flame scribe, and the hereditary keeper of lineage records. The keeper died last winter, Thalia said. Corvin inclined his head, which leaves 2 lawful keys. Hadrian looked at him. And one of them is yours, as your decree requires. Hadrian ordered the lineage vault sealed before anyone left the circle. Corvin placed his iron key on the evidence table. Hadrian did the same with his own. The unfinished fire script was copied onto slate, then covered with a glass shield so no soot could be brushed away. The numbered ashtray returned to the Black Ember Vault under royal and neutral custody. Lenora was ordered back with it. She stopped at the edge of the circle. Am I still a prisoner? The confinement order remains. Then do not describe the chains as the only restraint. Hadrian accepted the correction in silence. He accompanied the evidence convoy to the vault before opening the lineage chamber. Corvin objected to Lenora's presence at the register examination, arguing that she had no archive standing. Hadrian overruled him, but only after the neutral clerk entered, that Lenora would observe without touching the pages, unless asked a procedural question. The royal lineage vault lay behind the throne dais, where the walls were built from black glass that reflected flame without holding ash memory. Hadrian and Corvin inserted their keys together. The door opened with a deep metal turn. Inside, sealed blood registers rested in narrow stone cases. Lady Thalia's maternal volume occupied the third shelf. The outer wax appeared intact. Lenora leaned closer without crossing the marked floor line. Read the seal date. The clerk did. It had been renewed 6 months after Thalia's mother died. Corvin said, lineage seals are renewed when wax becomes brittle. Was renewal entered? Hadrian asked. The clerk searched the vault ledger. No maintenance order appeared. Thalia's face tightened. Could the omission be clerical? Yes. Lenora said. It could. Hadrian glanced at her. She had given Thalia the same restraint she demanded for herself. The clerk lifted the register case beneath 3 witnesses and carried it to the examination table. Hadrian broke the wax. Inside lay a thick volume bound in red-black leather. The first pages recorded births, marriages, and blood attestations from the Marrow line. The final section contained Thalia's succession entry. At first, nothing looked disturbed. Then Lenora noticed that the page edges near the binding did not align. Raise the side lamp. A guard moved the flame lower. One page cast a shorter shadow than the others. The clerk measured it. The succession leaf had been trimmed and rebound. Its surface bore the correct office seals, but the thread fastening it to the spine was newer than the surrounding stitching. Corvin examined the binding from his side of the table. Replacement pages are permitted when ink damage makes an entry unreadable. Where is the damaged page? Hadrian asked. In the lineage restoration packet, if procedure was followed. The packet shelf was empty. Hadrian's burned hand closed against the table edge. The nearby lamp pulled inward and dimmed. Lenora saw the linen at his palm darken again. Step away from the flame. This is not about my hand. The fire is reacting to you. If it scorches the register, the court will have another damaged record and no neutral explanation. He stepped back. It was the first time he obeyed her in front of Corvin and Thalia. The clerk tested the replacement leaf without fire. Under angled light, 2 layers of writing appeared, the visible succession line and a scraped impression beneath it. Only fragments remained. Second maternelle, attestation, withheld pending. The rest had been cut away with the missing edge. Thalia stared at the page. I was told there had been 1 attestation. Corvin turned toward her. The lower line may concern another claimant. Then why was it beneath mine? No one answered. Hadrian ordered the register sealed under 4-party custody. Royal Guard, neutral clerk, succession office, and Lenora as procedural witness. Corvin's expression sharpened. She has no lawful standing to hold a custody mark. She does now for this examination, Hadrian said. Lenora looked at him. Temporary standing does not repair the office that excluded me. No, he said. It preserves this record tonight. The register was returned to its case. As the clerk lifted it, a thin piece of charred parchment slipped from the hollow beneath the binding. No one touched it. A clean tray was placed below, and the fragment fell flat. Across its burned edge survived the lower half of a sentence. Deliver the original attestation to Lenora Quill's father before the royal flame scribe can certify. The charred fragment was not moved until every person in the lineage vault had signed the recovery line. A neutral clerk placed glass over it, then read the surviving words aloud. The order named Lenora's father as the intended recipient of an original attestation before certification by the royal flame scribe. It did not identify who wrote the instruction, whether the transfer occurred, or what the missing attestation contained. Corvin recovered first. A direction to deliver a record is not proof that Quill received it lawfully. No, Lenora said. It proves someone expected him to receive it before your office completed certification. Hadrian looked at the hollow beneath the register binding. Search the custody ledger for the fragment's intake number. The clerk found the number 3 pages earlier. The entry had been scraped, but the pressure of the original writing remained in the parchment. Under angled light, several words appeared. Secondary archive transfer. Hadrian Quill. Witness fire required. Lenora had not heard her father's given name spoken in a royal chamber since the day of his execution. Lady Thalia looked toward her. Was he a lineage archivist? No. He copied disputed testimony for the lower record rooms. Corvin's voice was careful, and later confessed to retaining material ordered destroyed. That confession remains in your office, Lenora said. Not here. Hadrian ordered Hadrian Quill's trial file brought under royal guard. Corvin objected that the case had been closed 12 years earlier. Then opening the file will not change the verdict, Hadrian replied. The words were controlled, but his burned hand had begun bleeding through its bandage again. Lenora turned back to the charred order. The phrase, witness fire, required matters. Hadrian faced her. Why? A secondary archive transfer could not be completed by paper seal alone. The receiving archivist had to speak the intake line before an authorized flame. If my father accepted the attestation, some portion may have entered flame memory before the original disappeared. Can you call it back? No. Fire does not answer requests. We need ash, wax, or a surviving flame that touched the transfer. Corvin indicated the burned fragment. There is your ash. It may hold only the order. Forcing it again could destroy what remains. Hadrian ordered the fragment sealed without further flame testing. He then suspended the lineage examination and moved everyone back to the Black Ember Vault, where the recovered materials could be isolated from Corvin's office. Lenora remained confined, but her temporary custody mark allowed her to stand at the evidence table rather than behind the inner ring. The change did not make her free. It made the procedure less dishonest. Hadrian Quill's trial file arrived near dusk. Its outer seals were genuine. Inside, the confession page stated that he had preserved prohibited testimony after receiving a lawful destruction order. It did not say he invented the testimony. It did not identify the records he kept. The final inventory listed 1 ash packet, 2 copied statements, and a sealed witness flame surrendered to the crown. The witness flame, Lenora said. Where was it placed? Corvin turned to the inventory note. Extinguished after judgment. By which office? The Royal Flame Scribe. Recorded where? Corvin's silence lasted only a moment. The extinguishment register will show it. Hadrian sent royal guards for the register. Lady Thalia remained near the outer gate. If the original attestation reached your father, could he have altered it? Yes, Lenora said. Thalia blinked, perhaps expecting denial. He could also have copied it accurately, misunderstood it, or received only part of it. His name in a transfer line does not settle any of that. Hadrian watched Lenora as she spoke. You defend limits, even when they leave your father under suspicion. I know what happens when grief is entered as proof. The nearest vault flame rose, then bent toward Lenora's unbound hands. Hadrian stepped back from it. Why did Vaskor's fire refuse to burn you? He asked. Lenora looked at the numbered ashtray, her father's file, and the living blue line along the wall. Because it found testimony already under royal flame protection. Corvin gave a quiet breath of disbelief. A person cannot be a record. A flame recorder can carry fragments that entered authorized fire and were denied lawful release. The words remain in breath, blood, and memory until they are witnessed or lost. Hadrian's gaze fixed on her. You carried testimony into the judgment circle. I carried what the furnace forced through me when the case burned. And Vaskor would not destroy it. He could have. Royal dragonfire can burn a flame recorder. But when the same royal authority ordered both preservation and destruction, the fire hesitated between commands. The answer did not make her invulnerable. A common flame could kill her. Vaskor's breath could kill her if Hadrian gave an unconflicted order. The first trial had failed because the dragonfire encountered protected testimony inside the woman it had been told to judge. Corvin moved closer to the gate. Then her survival proves only a conflict in royal commands, not innocence. Yes, Lenora said, that is all it proves. Hadrian looked toward the decree bearing his seal. He had authorized destruction without independent copies, then ordered Vaskor to judge a woman carrying words his own system had failed to preserve. The guards returned with the extinguishment register. Hadrian Quill's witness flame had not been destroyed after his execution. The entry showed it transferred to the throne level under emergency royal custody. Hadrian read the receiving mark. This belonged to my father. The former Dragon King had taken personal custody of the flame 3 days before Hadrian Quill died. No later return or extinguishment appeared. Corvin's control slipped for the first time. That flame was never included in the succession archives. Then where is it? Thalia asked. No one answered. A deep impact sounded above the vault. Dust fell from the ceiling. Vaskor's claws scraped across the throne chamber stones. The fire around Lenora drew into a single line pointing upward. Hadrian ordered the vault opened. They reached the throne hall as Vaskor lowered his head beside the iron dais. Blue-white light leaked through a crack beneath the throne. Royal guards lifted the lower plate. Behind it stood a narrow flame niche, sealed with the former king's mark. Inside, a small fire had been burning for 12 years. When Lenora crossed the hall, it wrote one surviving sentence across the throne steps. Hadrian Quill delivered the second attestation to the Dragon King. Hadrian ordered the throne hall sealed before anyone touched the hidden flame. The former king's mark remained intact around the niche, though the metal plate had been lifted. Vaskor crouched beside the dais, his head lowered until one bronze eye faced the small blue-white fire that had burned unseen for 12 years. Corvin stood beyond the guard line. The sentence proves only that Dragon Quill delivered a document to the late king. It proves the transfer occurred, Lenora said. Nothing more. Lady Thalia looked from the flame to Hadrian. Did your father ever tell you he held evidence connected to my succession? No. Hadrian's answer carried no defense. He ordered the former king's private custody ledger brought from the throne archive and opened beneath neutral witness. The entry for Dragon Quill's flame was present, but it did not contain the second attestation. It recorded only that the late king had taken personal custody of disputed lineage testimony pending independent review. No review followed. The next page had been left blank. Corvin studied the ledger from outside the marked floor. The former king may have judged the testimony unreliable. Then he should have entered that judgment, Lenora said. Private preservation is not the same as lawful release. Hadrian looked at the flame. Can it show why he kept it? Only if the reason was spoken before this fire, or entered into what it consumed. And if it was, it may return part of it, it may return nothing. Hadrian ordered 2 neutral clerks and the captain of the royal guard into the hall. Their names, positions, and distance from the niche were entered before any examination began. Lenora did not approach. You asked for witnesses, Hadrian said. I asked for a neutral record. This throne hall is still under your sole authority. His expression tightened. What would satisfy you? A custody order that prevents the crown, the flame scribe, and the succession office from altering or extinguishing what appears. 3 copies of every recovered fragment, 1 held outside the palace. Corvin objected. No disputed royal testimony leaves Solmere Ash Court. That rule allowed a statement to disappear after one office certified its destruction, Lenora replied. Hadrian read the blank page in his father's ledger again. Then he ordered the neutral clerk to draft the custody terms exactly as Lenora had stated. Corvin's voice cooled. You are letting a prisoner dictate archive law. I'm setting conditions for this examination. Lenora heard the difference. Hadrian had not declared her innocent, and he had not surrendered royal judgment. But he had allowed the record to exist beyond the reach of his own hall. When the order was sealed, Lenora stepped toward the niche. The hidden flame leaned into her breath. Pain tightened beneath her ribs, not sharp enough to make her falter, but familiar. She stopped at the marked distance and placed both hands at her sides. Enter, that I am not touching the flame, she said. The clerks recorded it. Blue-white writing moved across the lower throne step. Second attestation received under witness fire. The next line formed more slowly. Certified maternal entry does not contain the full common IS. The words broke apart. Hadrian did not order another attempt. Thalia's face had gone still. The full what? No one knows, Lenora said. Corvin stepped nearer the guard line. The fragment may refer to a title, a witness list, or a later amendment. It does not invalidate Lady Thalia's blood. Agreed, Lenora said. Thalia looked at her sharply, but Lenora did not soften the conclusion. Limits applied even when suspicion favored her. A third line began without prompting. Do not return this fire to the flame scribe until NDN. The flame folded inward before the instruction completed. Corvin's composure thinned. The late king may have been suffering from the same corruption now affecting Hadrian's bond. Vaskor's head rose. The royal dragon opened his jaws toward the throne brazier. No flame came. Hadrian lifted his bandaged hand. Vaskor. The dragon turned away from the command. Across the hall, every certified flame attached to the throne guttered low. None went out, but none would rise high enough to seal, judge, or destroy a record. Corvin stared at the braziers. The succession review cannot continue without royal fire. Then it stops, Hadrian said. The decree was simple. All testimony destruction, flame judgment, and succession certification were suspended until the hidden witness fire and the missing records were independently reviewed. The nobles outside the sealed doors began demanding entry. Lenora stepped back from the niche. I will not continue tonight. Hadrian faced her. The fire is active now. So am I. That does not make either of us an instrument you may use until something breaks. He looked at the strain in her face but did not reach for her. What do you require? Release from the Black Ember Vault. Corvin gave a quiet laugh. She survives dragonfire, carries restricted testimony, and now asks to walk free inside the palace. I asked to leave a prison controlled by the same throne under investigation. Hadrian could have refused. The original charge remained unresolved. 12 statements were still missing, and Lenora's ability had never been lawfully registered. He removed the confinement order from the evidence table and crossed out the black ember vault. "You remain within Solmere Ash Court under neutral guard," he said. "You choose the chamber. Corvin's office has no access. Neither do I without your permission or a witnessed order." Lenora did not thank him. She chose the abandoned public copying room beside the judgment circle, where every entrance opened onto a shared corridor and no private furnace stood inside. The numbered ashtray, her father's file, and the copied fire fragments were transferred there under the new custody terms. Hadrian walked with the convoy but stopped at the threshold. "You knew my father had been used to preserve testimony," Lenora said. "Now you know yours hid it. I know he kept it from the record. And you inherited the silence." "Yes." She closed the door between them. That evening, Vaskor left the throne roof and settled above the public copying room. The royal dragon would not return to the dais. Near midnight, the hidden witness flame beneath the throne produced one final fragment without Lenora present. 3 neutral witnesses copied it before the words faded. Hadrian read the line alone in the corridor outside her door. The second attestation was sealed with the blood of Hadrian Solmere. The sentence from the hidden flame was entered 3 times before Hadrian knocked on Lenora's door. He did not enter when she opened it. 2 neutral clerks and the captain of the royal guard stood behind him in the corridor, each holding a separate copy. "The fire named my blood," he said. Lenora read the line without touching the slate. The second attestation was sealed with the blood of Hadrian Solmere. "That does not mean you knew what it contained," she said. "It means your blood was used to seal it. We verify the custody before we decide what that means." Hadrian nodded. "What record do you need?" "The heir's blood seal register from the year my father died, and the late king's transfer docket. Neither comes through the flame scribe office." Hadrian gave the order in the corridor. He also placed the hidden witness flame under royal and neutral custody, with every recovered fragment copied for storage beyond Solmere Ash Court. Corvin arrived before the records did. "You are distributing royal succession material outside the palace," he said. "I am preserving a disputed record outside every office named in its destruction chain," Hadrian replied. "Your marriage council will call that an admission that the throne cannot guard its own history. It has not guarded it." The words were plain. Hadrian did not look toward Lenora after saying them. Lady Thalia came with no attendants. She read the copied fragment and asked, "Was his blood placed on my mother's attestation?" "We do not know yet," Lenora said. Thalia's gaze moved to Hadrian. "Do you remember sealing anything for the late king?" He did not answer until the clerks entered the room and recorded the question. "I remember sealing a closed transfer packet when I was crown prince," he said. "My father told me it required the next king's protection. I did not ask whose record it held." "How old were you?" Lenora asked. 22. Old enough to ask. No one said it for him. The blood seal register arrived inside a locked case. Its entry for that winter showed one protected transfer accepted under the late king's mark and Hadrian's blood. The receiving field named Dragon Quill. The contents were described only as a disputed maternal attestation with 12 witness appendices. The 12 missing statements had not been separate records. They belonged to the same protected file. Corvin studied the entry. "A protected transfer can still be destroyed after later certification. Only after both protecting authorities release it," the neutral clerk said. The late king's release line was blank. Hadrian's was not. A broad succession waiver had been entered beside his name 6 months earlier, the same decree that allowed Corvin's office to destroy disputed testimony after certification without an independent copy. Hadrian read the legal note. "The decree released every unresolved succession record held under my authority. It released categories, not named files," Corvin said. "That is how general decrees operate." Lenora looked at Hadrian. "Did you require a list of protected records before signing it?" "No." "Did anyone tell you my father's transfer was among them?" "No." "But you signed away its protection." "Yes." The admission did not make Corvin innocent or Hadrian deceived. Corvin's office had used a power Hadrian granted. Hadrian had chosen a decree broad enough to clear political delay without seeing what it would erase. He removed the succession waiver from the docket and placed it beneath glass. Effective now, no general decree may release a named testimony, blood record, or witness flame. Every release requires the record number, current custodian, independent copy, and signatures from 2 offices that did not certify the destruction. Corvin's expression hardened. You are writing archive law in the middle of a contested review. I am ending the rule that allowed one office to certify, destroy, and describe what survived. Hadrian turned to the clerks. Enter that I am a material party to this evidence chain. I will not hold sole custody, interpret my father's intent, or rule on the validity of the second attestation. The decision removed part of his authority before anyone forced him to surrender it. It did not release Lenora or settle Thalia's claim, but it prevented Hadrian from serving as both implicated sealholder and final judge. Thalia stepped closer to the register. If the 12 statements were appendices, their intake numbers should follow the attestation. They should, Lenora said. The neutral clerk checked the restricted testimony inventory. 12 numbers appeared in sequence. Each had entered the vault during the previous month for succession review. Each was marked missing after Lenora carried the sealed case to the furnace. The file had been separated, reviewed in pieces, and gathered again before it burned. Who ordered the appendices brought together? Hadrian asked. Corvin answered. My office requested completeness before certification. That is procedure, Lenora said. Not proof of destruction. Corvin looked at her. You defend the same limits that keep you imprisoned. I defend them because I am imprisoned. The hidden witness flame could not be moved without risking extinction, so the clerks brought certified copies of the 12 intake lines beneath the throne under the new custody order. Lenora remained in the public copying room. She refused to stand before the flame again until the record sequence was complete. Hadrian came to her doorway after sunset. He stopped outside. The register confirms I sealed your father's transfer, he said. Later, I released it without knowing its name. You preferred a clean succession review to a difficult archive. Yes. His bandaged hand hung at his side. He did not ask her to excuse the younger prince or the present king. What happens now? He asked. We identify the 12 witnesses. Then we compare their filed statements with whatever the fire preserved. If we recover only fragments, we say fragments. Hadrian ordered the witness index produced. 11 names had been scraped away. The 12th remained because the ink had burned too deeply into the page to remove. Lady Thalia. Beside her name, the subject line read, Statement given against certification of my own succession claim. The surviving name changed the hearing before anyone spoke. Lady Thalia moved to the witness index and read the subject line herself. Her face remained composed, but one hand tightened around the edge of the table. I gave that statement, she said. Corvin turned toward her. You later withdrew it. Then produce the withdrawal. His answer came without delay. It was certified through my office during the preliminary review. Lenora looked at the neutral clerk. Is there an original? The clerk searched the intake references. Only a flamescribe abstract. No signed withdrawal is listed. Corvin's voice stayed even. A spoken withdrawal before authorized flame is lawful. Then some flame memory or custody notation should remain, Lenora said, unless the withdrawal was destroyed with the statement it claimed to replace. Hadrian ordered the abstract sealed under joint custody. He did not ask Thalia to explain herself privately. The next examination will take place in the judgment circle, Lenora said. Open doors, neutral clerks, 3 copies of every fragment. Vaskor will not be used as a judge, and no one will order me to continue after I stop. Corvin gave a restrained shake of his head. The prisoner is setting terms for a royal succession hearing. Hadrian looked at Lenora. Are those the conditions under which you can release what survived? They are the conditions under which the record will not disappear again. Granted. He suspended the marriage treaty until the testimony review ended and entered his own decree, blood seal, and prior waiver as disputed parts of the evidence chain. The action did not decide Thalia's claim. It prevented the court from completing it while the missing record remained unresolved. By noon, the judgment circle had been cleared of ceremonial banners. The numbered ash fragments rested beneath glass. The hidden witness flame remained under the throne, connected to the circle by a clean royal brazier, that carried heat but no ash. 2 copies of each recovered line would stay in Solmere Ash Court. A third would leave under neutral guard. Lenora entered without chains. She wore the same gray archive dress from the fire trial. The hem still carried a dark line where Vaskor's first breath had split the resin beneath her feet. Hadrian stood outside the circle with Corvin and Thalia. Vaskor watched from the open roof but received no command. The neutral clerk read Thalia's intake number. Lenora held her hands above the clean flame. "Record that I am releasing only fragments already carried from the burned case," she said. "Their survival does not establish that every word was true." The blue-white fire rose. A woman's voice entered it, strained but recognizable. "I, Thalia Marrow, request that my succession certification stop until the second maternal attestation is produced." Thalia closed her eyes briefly. The fire continued. "My mother told me the certified register omitted a condition placed upon our line. I was not shown the original page." The final words broke into sparks. No accusation against Thalia remained in that fragment. She had challenged the claim made in her name. Corvin addressed the court. "A request for delay is not a rejection of succession. Lady Thalia could later have withdrawn it." "Then we test the withdrawal abstract," Lenora said. The abstract had been copied onto treated parchment and certified by a flame scribe office seal. It contained no ash from Thalia's original statement. Under clean flame, it produced only the scribe's summary. "Witness no longer contests certification." "Those are not my words," Thalia said. Corvin faced her. "They are the lawful meaning entered by my office." "Meaning is not testimony," Lenora replied. Hadrian's burned hand flexed at his side. "Who certified the abstract?" "The office mark is sufficient under the decree." "The decree I signed," Hadrian said. "The same decree that allowed your office to replace a witness's words with its interpretation and burn the source." Corvin did not deny the structure. The crown required decisions. Disputed lineage cannot remain open every time a frightened witness changes her mind. Thalia stepped away from him. "I did not change mine." A murmur moved through the court. Lenora returned her hands to the flame. Pain tightened beneath her ribs, but she did not continue until the clerk entered Thalia's objection and the limits of the abstract. A second voice surfaced from the ash. "I was present when the maternal register was renewed. The second attestation was removed before sealing. Then another. I carried the original leaf to the lower archive. Royal Flame Scribe Office received it under closed custody. The speakers matched 2 of the scraped entries in the witness index. Both had been recorded as leaving Solmere service. Neither departure carried the required seal. Corvin's calm thinned. Fragments cannot establish whether those speakers had authority or whether their statements were later disproved. "No," Lenora said. "Their employment, access, and disappearance must be checked." She lowered her hands. Corvin looked toward Hadrian. "The flame recorder refuses before the central claim is resolved." "The flame recorder has stopped before the surviving record is damaged," Hadrian said. Lenora faced the court. "I will not burn myself empty so this palace can call speed certainty again." The neutral clerk sealed the ash. That should have ended the examination for the day. Instead, the throne brazier flared red. Corvin had pressed his office ring against the emergency purge plate built into the judgment circle. Under old archive law, a royal flame scribe could quarantine suspected corrupted fire before it spread into the palace record. Iron shutters began closing over the doors. Corvin did not run. Until the source is proven clean, nothing written by this flame leaves the court. The outside copy was still inside the circle. Hadrian reached for the purge lever, but royal fire surged across the floor between him and the mechanism. His damaged bond would not let him cross. Lenora looked at the sealed testimony, then at the wall where the first sentence had appeared. She stepped back into the judgment circle as the shutters descended. Blue-white fire rose around her, carrying the voices Corvin had ordered contained. And for the first time, Lenora Quill placed her own name into the living fire transcript as its lawful witness. The iron shutters struck the floor before Hadrian reached the purge lever. Red fire sealed the judgment circle. Corvin's office ring remained pressed against the emergency plate, feeding the quarantine command through channels Hadrian's damaged bond could not cross. "Remove your hand," Hadrian said. Corvin did not. "Archive law is clear. Suspected corruption must be contained before it enters the royal record. The record is already witnessed," Lenora said. Blue-white fire moved around her without touching her clothes. It carried only fragments already entered from the burned statements, the hidden witness flame, and the sealed ash. When Lenora placed her name into the living fire transcript, the wall recorded the act. Lenora Quill, flame recorder, accepts custody of the surviving fragments under public witness. The sentence did not declare her innocent. It established who had taken responsibility for preserving what remained. The neutral clerks repeated the wording and signed their slates. Corvin pressed harder against the plate. A prisoner cannot create lawful custody by naming herself. She is no longer an unnamed vessel inside this record, Thalia said. I witness her custody claim. Corvin turned toward her. Your succession depends on this court recognizing the difference between testimony and disorder. My succession depends on a statement your office rewrote. The red fire rose higher. Hadrian looked toward Vaskor. He did not command the dragon to burn the barrier. Instead, he removed the succession signet from his hand and placed it on the stone. Vaskor, I withdraw the crown's destruction claim over every fragment entered today. The royal dragon lowered his head. The fire thinned, but did not vanish. Corvin's emergency authority had been built into the decree Hadrian signed. The system still recognized both commands. Hadrian drew his sword and struck the royal seal plate beneath the throne. The first blow cracked the crown line. The second split the purge channel from the throne fire. Blue-white light burst through the fracture, and the red barrier collapsed. The shutters remained locked. Hadrian crossed the circle and seized the purge lever with his burned hand. Skin darkened beneath the bandage, but he held it while the guard captain forced the mechanical release. One shutter, lifted high enough for the sealed outside copy to pass beneath. Only after the transcript reached the corridor did Hadrian release the lever. Corvin removed his ring. You have broken a royal safeguard before the court. I broke the safeguard you used to prevent a lawful copy from leaving. You cannot prove that was my purpose. No, Lenora said. But your action, authority, and timing are entered. Purpose will be judged with the rest. Hadrian ordered Corvin's office ring sealed. The guards removed his ceremonial mantle, but did not drag him away. The hearing resumed with the doors open. The neutral clerks read the chain. The first statement burned before Lenora entered the vault. Destruction carried flame. Scribe certification and a succession matrix pressed after the testimony was gone. The protected file contained 12 witness appendices. Hadrian's general waiver released it without naming it. Corvin's office replaced Thalia's spoken objection with an abstract, and 2 witnesses disappeared from service without sealed departure records. Corvin admitted certifying destruction through his office and approving the abstract as the lawful meaning of Thalia's testimony. He denied killing witnesses, altering the blood register, or personally burning all 12 statements. The court did not pretend the missing proof had returned. Hadrian suspended Corvin and ordered an independent tribunal for unlawful destruction, false abstraction of testimony, misuse of emergency purge authority, and obstruction of protected copies. The disappearances remained separate matters, requiring evidence. Then Thalia stepped into the judgment circle. My mother's full attestation has not been recovered, she said. My claim may prove lawful, conditional, or invalid. Until the original register and surviving witnesses are examined, I withdraw from certification and from the proposed marriage treaty. She refused to let a throne be granted, through testimony she had once asked the court to preserve. Hadrian accepted her withdrawal publicly. He then faced Lenora before the wall, where the fire had first written. I approved the decree that placed interpretation, certification, destruction, and the final record inside one office. I knew my bond with Vaskor was failing. Yet I continued the fire trial because stopping it would have weakened the succession review. I imprisoned you inside the system I had made difficult to question. He revoked the decree, abolished single-office destruction, and surrendered the Crown's exclusive custody of disputed flame records. Future destruction would require a named record, an independent copy, 2 outside witnesses, and time for the speaker or family to challenge the order. Lenora refused the position of royal flame scribe. Instead, she founded the Living Fire Archive in the public copying rooms, independent of throne, succession office, and royal scribes. Flame recorders could register their work without surrendering authorship. Every recovered fragment would state its source, limits, custody, and uncertainty. Hadrian Quill's conviction was reopened, not erased. The record showed that he received a protected attestation and that his witness flame was hidden by the former king. Whether every word he preserved was true would be examined under the same rules Lenora demanded for everyone. Weeks later, Vaskor returned to the throne roof only after Hadrian stopped using dragonfire as a shortcut to judgment. The burns on Hadrian's hand began to close, though the bond remained scarred. He came to the Living Fire archive, carrying no seal. Lenora stood beside 3 clerks copying the final transcript. "I have no order for you," he said. "That is an improvement." His mouth almost softened, but he did not turn the moment into a claim. "I will continue reviewing every destruction made under my decree," he said, "whether you permit me near this archive or not." Lenora studied the healed edge of his bandage and the absence of guards inside her door. "You may return when the record requires your testimony," she said. "And when I invite you." Hadrian bowed his head. "Then I will wait for both." She did not offer forgiveness. She offered him a place at the far end of the copying table. He took it. Behind them, the Living Fire transcript held no final verdict over Lenora Quill. It held her name, her limits, and the testimony others had tried to erase. For the first time, royal fire preserved a woman's words without requiring her to burn for them.